Good morning, everyone. It's John here from yourshadylife.com, and just introducing myself very briefly. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about myself in this video. Get more of that as more videos are added to our YouTube channel. First of all, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening and watching. And today we're going to talk about 5 common shade trees, backyard shade trees here in Ontario. And I'll give you a caveat right at the beginning. I'm not an arborist. So I actually am going to be somewhat unashamedly dependent on my teleprompter, my notes in front of me. And so I will apologize for that right off the bat. Anyway, let's jump right in. Because our blog and our site and our YouTube channel are all about shade for your backyard, for your patio, etc., we thought that starting with shade trees would be an excellent place to start. Obviously, many of the benefits of having a good shade tree in your backyard, it's certainly got aesthetic appeal and resale value for your home, obviously, and provides a nice natural habitat for wildlife, which can be a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. And yeah, natural cooling, it's a natural thing. There is some maintenance obviously involved, and there's also obviously environmental benefits to trees. So we're going to talk about 5 trees that are very common in the Ontario growing zones. The first one we're going to talk about is the sugar maple, very common obviously. As far as size goes, grows up to about 75 feet tall. It's medium to fast growth rate, so you can have shade in just a matter of a few years. It's got a dense rounded crown and very, very vibrant fall colors. It provides a nice deep cool shade, beautiful fall foliage, as I've said, and it's a very hardy tree for this growing zone, for this climate. I know there are a variety of growing zones and climates in Ontario, but sugar maples certainly do well across the province. Some of the downsides are that it's a very large tree, so it may not be suitable for a small yard, and it has an extensive root structure. Most maples, by the way, have shallow root structures, and so it affects the growth of grass around it. It sucks a lot of moisture out of the soil, so it can leave you a very, very patchy grass in your backyard, etc. And the growth initially is quite slow. Now the second one, which in our part of Ontario, which is deep southwestern Ontario, we don't have a lot of these. They're very disease prone, and that is red oaks. Again, they grow not quite as big as a sugar maple, 60 to 75 feet tall. They are a fast-growing shade tree. Again, a broad spreading crown with lobed leaves on them. Some of the pros are that they obviously provide ample shade quickly because they are a fast grower. They have very strong, durable wood. Everybody knows that about oak. And very, just like the sugar maple, very attractive fall color. Again, they require a large yard, large size, due to their large size. The acorns off an oak tree can be messy, so some people don't like that downside. And as I've already said, oaks were wiped out in this part of Ontario a number of years ago, so there are very few. I can remember an oak tree from the schoolyard when I was in elementary school. It's long gone, but oaks were wiped out by pests and disease, so they are disease prone. The third one I'll mention, and this is one that's more common in central and northern Ontario. We don't see a lot of these down here in southwestern Ontario, and that is an eastern white pine. They're a very large tree, so they take a lot of space. They grow up to about 80 feet tall. They are fast growing. And as you know, a pine, now differentiate a pine from a spruce or a fir, which have sharp needles. Pines have soft, long needles and a tall, straight trunk. One of the unique things, and this is unique amongst the 5 trees that we're profiling today, is the fact that they provide year-round shade. Obviously, they're a coniferous tree, not a deciduous tree, so they don't shed their leaves in the fall like a maple or an oak. Their fast growth provides quick coverage, and they have very attractive soft foliage. Again, another one of the downsides of these, as has been the case with every one of these trees so far, is that they are a large tree. So they take up a lot of space. They're also very prone to wind damage. So there are a few reasons for that I won't go into right here and right now. Tree number 4 is your northern red maple. Again, similar to the sugar maple that we profiled just a couple of moments ago. Doesn't grow quite as big, 50 to 70 feet tall. It's a fast-growing tree. Again, a rounded crown, vibrant red fall foliage. Some of the pros, obviously it's a very beautiful tree in the fall. It is very tolerant of all different soil types, and because it's fast-growing, it provides a quick shade. Now, some of the downsides are with this particular tree is that it can be susceptible to what arborists call leaf scorch and to pests. Again, it requires a lot of space, and this maple in particular has a shallow root system. Not all maples do, but this particular northern red maple does have a shallow root system, so that can affect nearby plants, nearby grass. You just imagine the amount of moisture being sucked up by the roots of that tree, so it really leaves a moisture deficit in the soil around it. The final one of my favorites, and I actually have one of these in my front yard, as fate would have it, is a silver birch. Now, there aren't a lot of birch trees, particularly in southwestern Ontario, and that's partly the same reason as the red oak. They are very susceptible to disease. They're not nearly as big. This is the smallest of the 5 trees that we have profiled here in this video, and they grow up to about 40 to 50 feet tall. They are like the sugar maple. They're a medium to fast growing tree. White bark, delicate lacy foliage, so a nice filtered shade. They can be a little bit of a messy tree. They're not nearly as messy as a locust tree would be, but they tend to be a little bit messy. They will shed their leaves, their foliage early in the fall, so it's nice. You can clean it up good and early, and it's a very fine, small leaf, like I said, lacy foliage. It's got a very attractive, distinctive bark, as all birch trees do. And like I've said, it provides a filtered or a dappled light shade, and it's very soil tolerant, so different soil types it does well in. It does have a shorter lifespan than most trees, and I fear that with my silver birch in my front yard. That tree has to be, I'm guessing, about 30 years old. So I worry about it a little bit because I know they do have a shorter lifespan. Now, again, like the red oak, they are prone to pests, particularly birch borer pests. So there aren't a lot of birch trees, particularly in southern Ontario. A lot of them were wiped out by pests a number of decades ago. And they do require a moist, well-drained soil. So those are 5 common trees that you can think about. Now, it takes a lot of patience adding a tree for shade. You have to be willing to wait. You have to be willing to suffer in the sun on your patio for a few years. But when they do come in, there's a natural cooling effect. It enhances the aesthetic appeal of your yard, obviously, and it provides a natural habitat for wildlife, squirrels, etc., birds. They do require maintenance. Trees definitely do require maintenance. You have to think about how close do I want them to the house. They take a lot of planning before you put them in. You have to really think about how large they're going to get. We had a large silver maple in our backyard. We had to get rid of it. And you have to think about the potential for root systems to interfere with structures, or the fact that seasonal changes affect the amount of shade provided. Mind you, it goes with the weather here. There are 4 seasons in Ontario that we don't really need shade at the time when leaves are off the trees. So that being said, that's just a brief overview, a little longer than I wanted it to be, of trees as used for shade in your backyard. So I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Go check out our blog if you haven't already at yourshadylife.com. It is updated on a daily basis. There are just piles and piles of information about providing shade for your backyard patio and making it more usable. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned as we continue to offer more videos. Leave your comments in the comment section, and subscribe to our website and to our channel. We'll talk soon.